listening to Bleeding Page Podcast. Join authors Chad Lutsky and Jason Brandt as they delve into writing and publishing the dark side of fiction.
Chad, how's it going?
Mr. Brandt, it's going all right, man. It's going good.
We just had a very nice interview with Mr. Malerman.
Dude, every time I talk to him or even just listen to him, I just want to go lock myself in a room for a week and just do nothing but write. He's so inspirational for me.
Yeah, he's very driven, and just the way he talks about the process and everything, it's very motivational. I like the way his mind works.
His passion is very contagious, man.
Absolutely. We covered a lot of topics. We were kind of all over the map, but it seemed to fit. It had a nice flow to it, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had more that I was serious at the end when I said I was going to bug him again about coming back on. I'd love to ask him more about some stuff, and maybe by then he will have more info on the documentary thing that we talked about. Absolutely.
I thought that was a very cool idea. When he described it, I was like, how am I going to be boring? But then as he got in a little, sounds like a really cool project, actually.
Yes.
So, you got any news going on?
I got a little news. First of all, I wanted to give a shout out to your podcast / show, streaming show, Final Guys, because on Tuesday nights at 8:00 every single week, Eastern time, because there's not a lot of people that know about it. And I know a lot of writers and readers show up there. Some ones that have never been in there before showed up, and it dawned on me that this is really a show that a lot of people would love to, hang out in the chat and talk with other people and interact with the show, or just, listen to everybody talk about film, bad movies, hear horror news and stuff, and they just don't know that it's there. So I don't know if anybody listens to this, doesn't already know about that, but if they don't, I would encourage them to. I don't have the URL. I can put the URL in the description.
Well, so thanks, man. I mean, you're on there all the time, and we have fun with it. I enjoy doing it.
I'm on there a lot, and if I'm not, I'm almost always in the chat. So
I never promote it, just like I don't promote any of my work.
It's a good time. I would encourage anybody to check it out. It's a real good time. You, Hunter, and Jack, great camaraderie. Love all three of you guys. It's always I'm really genuinely with my tribe when I'm there. So go check it out. Maybe you'll feel like it's part of your tribe too. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I have been mentioning that, so I'll only say it briefly, but my collection through Cemetery Gates Media called Spinal Remains is out, and so is Wounds to Wishes through Crystal Lake Publishing, which features 3 novellas with myself, Robert Ford, and John Bowden. And then a anthology, a Western horror anthology called, what the heck is that thing called? I got it written down here. It's a long title. Blood in the Soil, Terror on the Wind. Bunch of authors there in there. I've got a story in there called Voodoo Higgies that is fairly funny. That's out now through, I can't remember who put that out. Oh, Brigand's Gate Press put that out. So very nice.
What was the name of your story?
Voodoo Higgies.
Voodoo Higgies. That's an interesting title.
Yeah, it's got some humor in it, man. I like it. So
nice.
I don't know if anyone else likes it because it just came out like yesterday or the day before. So
very nice.
Yeah.
On my writing front, I have not started my new book yet, but I have started doing double the episodes on my YouTube show, which means I have less than 0 time at this point. So I might have to start chronicling how I managed to get all the projects done that I want to do, which is Josh in the interview, is how does he juggle so many projects? Because it's something I'm struggling with right now and I need to figure out. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully I can start writing again soon. But
I'd love to.
It's been a long month.
I would love to see that. Yeah.
It's been my best month ever. Like, I've made more money this month than I've ever made in my life in a month. So it's good. It's just So I'm trying to juggle,
right,
continuing that business and get back to my writing business. So
sure.
We'll see what happens. I'm sure I'll mention it the next time, and I will have made no progress on figuring everything out. Anything else before we get into this?
That'd be it, man.
All right. We have are you reading his bio, or we just?
Yes. Well, I mean, I didn't write it down. I'm not going to read it. It's Josh Malerman. Yeah. I mean, he wrote Bird Box. He's written a ton of stuff. I mean, his the movie Bird Box broke all kinds of records, or at least one huge record at Netflix when it came out. If you haven't read him, you at least know about the film Bird Box. But if you are a writer or a reader, this is one episode you definitely don't want to miss. Josh is a very unique individual. Love hanging out with him. Love the guy more and more every time I spend time around him or with him. And yeah, this is a special episode that I wish were 3 times longer than it is.
Yeah. If we can ever get him on again, maybe we'll try to allot a little more time. Yeah. Because, I feel like we could talk about the industry, all kinds of industries, actually, and creative processes with him for a long time.
Yeah.
He has some unique takes.
For sure. So here's our interview with Josh Malerman.
Get a lot written today?
Yes.
Josh, it's so good to be hanging out with you again.
Yes.
I think the last time I talked to you was, well, actually in some of the Zoom meetings that we had with the project that we were doing. But before that was you were on my Paleo Cheese podcast, and I made you watch November, the black and white folk film.
No, it's funny. Last night when I was thinking about today, it crossed my mind. I was like, wait a minute, was there a movie I was supposed to watch?
Nope. But so it's good to see you. And I really wanted to go to your shindig that you had. I wish I could have been there. It looks like it was pretty out there, man. The videos that I saw in there, I was like, man, that looked like a crazy time.
Okay, so there's a TV series. I'm not sure how much I can say about it, but I mean, they've been posting, the creators of it have been posting about it. So I suppose, whatever. I'll just say it's a show about writers, and this is the pilot episode, and it's all horror authors for this episode and for this season. And they told me, like, the plan was they're going to come to there was 3 authors featured in the first episode. And they were going to go to each author's home and interview them, that kind of thing. And they were talking about interviewing me, like, on the deck and stuff. And I was a little nervous about it because this meant, like, an entire camera crew was coming to my house for, like, 4 days. And and not just that, but, like, some people that I'm friends with in the horror scene and some that I'm not. So it's not just a camera crew. It's also, like, I kind of got to be engaged and on and myself and present. I mean, I'm not going to have horror, like, if you came over, Chad, I'm not going to be like, hey, I'm going to just be in the office. Like, we'd be hanging out.
Yeah.
Talking. So I was aware that, like, 4 days were going to be pretty intense. And then they hired a director, Jamal Hodge. And Jamal said to me, I don't know if I like the idea of you just being alone, or I'm sorry, you just being interviewed on the deck. What's a better way to get to know you? And I'm like, oh, man, what's a better way to get to know me? And I was like, well, I guess maybe this would stand out possibly. Like, my birthday is right around there, and I am the kind of guy to host parties. Why not film me hosting a party?
Dude, that is a great idea.
And Jamal was like, yes, this is it. That's it. That's what we're doing. And
is there alcohol at this party?
Oh boy. This was night 1 of everyone arriving. The whole camera crew arrived at, like, noon or something. And earlier in the day, I had written a friend of mine, and I know I'm talking forever suddenly. I had written a friend of mine asking her to come to the party. She said she couldn't because she's in this, like, marching band that plays sort of like New Orleans, but it's like they play, like, songs, and they're like a party band, but they play, like, giant bass drum and horns and stuff. So I can't come because I have this is band practice, Detroit party practice. I'm like, okay. And then she called me back and said, plot twist, our venue to practice fell through. Can we just play at your party? I'm like, yeah. So when the camera crew showed up, I said to Jamal, I was like, hey, great news. I got a marching band, a 23-piece marching band. And I mean, he was like, wait, what? Because like, think about it. They were already prepared for everything. They're like, a marching band, like, we have to like mic that. We have to film that. Like, what are we talking about? And I was just like, you know, I mean, we all were like, you know, whether it's a pain in the butt or not, there's a marching band coming. We have to use this. Yeah. And that night, Jamal originally had told me like maybe you invite 10 people over. So there were 97 people. Allison and I counted, and a 23-piece marching band, and Allison dancing around in a bear suit. It was amazing.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
She must have been, from what I recall, it was hot that day. She must have been burning up in that thing.
Yeah, she told me afterwards that she got a little worried for a second. Yeah.
Why was she in a bear suit? Just for shits and giggles?
To dance while that marching. So if you watch, I'm not saying that you should have, but if you watch a video of that party, it's like, it's crazy. There's all these people and people jumping into a swimming pool and a marching band and a person in a very realistic or a really well done bear suit, you know, dancing around.
Where can I see these videos?
I think it's on my Facebook. Or no, I don't know if it's on mine, but I don't know. I'll send you one.
Okay. This sounds interesting.
It looks insane. But that's a good segue into, I wanted to ask you, one of the main things I want to talk about tonight, we cover a lot of, you know, self-publishing stuff, but in a lot of marketing strategies and promotional strategies. And you just demonstrated a good example of you thinking outside the box to do things differently, like how to get to know you. Would you be willing to, normally it would be a sit down and then you would just, you know, do your interview or whatever. But to invite somebody to a party that you're going to throw and then just say, you know, be a fly on the wall and watch us is so different. And that coincides with the other things that you do, like your readings. But before we get into that, I did want to ask you, you had mentioned that you were going to do your own like documentary from the genesis of a book all the way through to the end. Have you started that? Have you already done that?
Okay. Wow. I'm so glad you remembered that. So I had planned, and I had the book in mind for it and everything. And I even went out on the deck and, you know, I filmed like the first segment, like, here we go. This is what I know. Because part of the plan of that project is, so it's a documentary on writing a novel from beginning to scratch. And I want to be upfront with the audience from the word go. So if I know the ending, then tell them the ending. Mm-hmm. Like, I want the audience to know, the viewer to know everything I know. Because there's no point. I mean, the whole point is that we're doing this together. If I'm working towards an ending that I know about, well, then we're not on the same trip if you don't know the ending.
Yeah.
So you get what I'm saying. So I had this whole thing and I filmed it and it just wasn't very good. And then I tried it again and it was okay. And then I started considering, like, do I need to get like a crew in here? Like, do I need to get a better camera? Maybe I could have like an awesome, like, sort of dolly system off the end of my desk that I could like pull the camera like closer or further away, like get my own, sort of maybe surround myself with makeshift dollies. Mm-hmm. And because Allison and I have like 2 cameras that I think would be good enough, you know, this kind of thing. And we have audio recording. But what happened was, I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but our cat died. And Allison that night started painting a mural of the cat on the sort of foyer wall. So suddenly this giant wall in our house is now becoming an awesome mural. And while she was doing that, I outlined a different book of mine on the wall in my office. It's up here on the wall in my office, like just on the wall in Sharpie. Just, I don't know. We were like moved. The cat died. We were moved. She's painting. I'm going to write a book one day about this. Mm-hmm. And then I sat down and wrote that book. So while I was preparing to do this documentary of this one story, I wrote a different book. And I suppose I could have done the documentary of that, and maybe I should have, but it just felt like I just wanted to like get something done. So no, haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. Okay. Absolutely, for sure. And the idea, again, I think it'd be interesting to a viewer if you start off and you're like, I only know this much. I literally only know this much. I don't know the character's name. Here's the scenario. I know the relationship here. This is what I'm trying to say. This is the atmosphere I'm going for. I have a landmark scene in mind. I'm going to tell you everything that I know right now. And I'm going to tell you everything that I know as it comes as well.
Yeah.
So then you can actually see as a viewer, like, that's where the book, that's where it, the real meat of the matter came in. He was about halfway done when then it turned into a book about this, and now that's what the book is, right? Or, that's where he took a wrong turn. I mean, whatever it is. But that, I really want that thing, because if you think about it, if we had that video of like one of our heroes doing that,
oh yeah, man.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a step above those. You ever see those like behind the music or whatever? Like Black Sabbath did one for the album Paranoid, where it's like they're in the studio breaking down, stuff. They show, and they only can show so much old footage and stuff. It's not like we're watching this progress. It's just talking about, I remember 50 years ago or 53 years ago when we were recording this one part and stuff. But with your thing, you're there for the whole ride.
Okay, that's a brilliant analogy. So take Dark Side of the Moon, right? Mm-hmm. And imagine if we had footage of Gilmour saying like he's working on his parts for Breathe. And then he's like, I think I got to add reverb to this or something. And it would be this tiny thing at the moment, but to us is a legendary decision. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be something as pervasive as Dark Side of the Moon. But for us to watch that happen, and then now it's the wettest, awesomest guitar sound ever.
Right.
And it's like, to be there when he thought of that, it's not, what's the right word? He's not worshiping Dave Gilmour. It's being privy to the process. That's so exciting.
Sure. Yeah. And there is a video on YouTube. I think it's like a 45-minute video of the Rolling Stones writing Sympathy for the Devil.
It's great. That's
great. Yeah.
Didn't Truffaut direct that or something, or film that?
I can't remember, but you watch it from these little seeds to turning into this.
Oh, it's amazing. They do they do so many different versions of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would this be something you would do like a feature length movie, like 90 minutes, or you think snippets?
I think I'm always thinking that way when I'm with my bandmate, fellow songwriter Mark, who's coming over tonight. When Mark writes a song and I write a song and now we have two songs, I'm like, this is the start of an album. Like right away, my mind works that way. I wrote the outline for the book on the wall. I'm going to write this book right now. And the same thing here. Let's make this a movie, Allison, let's edit this into a movie and we could add music. I could add Allison singing her songs to it. I mean, let's do something here. And it's really, I think my biggest problem, and maybe you too, and you don't have to do it right now, obviously, or a viewer or something can solve it for me, is like, does it have to be pro looking, or is this good enough? What I have right now, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't care if it just ends up on YouTube or not even there, or it's just on my page or something and you watch it. But like something inside me still wants it to be like pro or semi-pro, not in a lame way, just good.
I was wondering how you would make that engaging across 90 minutes visually. Like you mentioned sliders, like maybe motorized sliders or something. I mean, are you doing screen capture of you typing, or is it just like watching a guy type on his computer for 90 minutes?
I think part of it, and this is going to be like obvious after I say it, is the life of the writer while he's writing too. So if I go out to the bar that night, we're filming that night out, and we're filming me talking about where I'm at in the book with my friend James, who's a writer, and we filming me on the phone with my mom, who she tells me, I tell her I'm really excited about this one, and she says, "You're always excited about them. You're excited about every one of them."
I think if you're worried about the
moments, but it's like this is writing a book, and I even think there should be moments of like, I don't know about you guys, but like, when I wake up every day, there's sort of this like almost this cold sort of like it takes me like an hour before I'm like myself. There's like this cold moment of like, geez, the world is like, we're just like rock floating in space and and then I'll be like, all right, here we go, let's go, let's get to work. And
I'm an existential crisis.
Yes, I wake up with one of those I have since I was a kid, and I think that to that stuff should be in there. And like, making the same stupid lunch I make every day because I don't know how to make anything else should be in there. I think, but ultimately though, we are talking about this book. I don't know if it's going to be visually engaging, but I think about it this way. and I've thought about a couple other movie ideas this way too. I would go see like a guy or girl like lecture on a book for an hour or 90 minutes. You know what I mean? I would go watch someone talk about. I'm just trying to pick any book. I would just go watch someone give a speech for an hour about writing, right? So I think that if you look at it from that angle, if you say, hey, anything more than just me at the podium giving a speech is interesting in this case. It's the same thing with the readings. Anything more than just me at a podium, because sometimes when we're putting together the theatrical readings, we start to go a little overboard. And then we all remind each other, like, hey, remember, anything more than Josh just at a podium is interesting. So we got the lighting, we got the fogs, we got music playing. If it was just music and Josh at a podium, that's more interesting than Josh at a podium. So keep those things in mind. Same thing with this documentary. I think if you approach it from that perspective, we see it as a speech on writing, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that makes a lot more sense. Encompassing your whole life as you write the book. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then you look at it that way, you're like, okay, this could go 90 minutes for sure.
And I think I wouldn't worry about the film quality so much as I think where it would really shine would be in the editing, the voiceover, the music that you were talking about. And I mean, you could have the crappiest camera, and if it's edited really well, it's gonna be engaging, entertaining.
Yeah, I think so too. And I even think like cell phones enough. And it's also okay if the footage doesn't match up. One great camera, one cell phone, one my computer camera. Like, so what? Great. Whatever.
I mean, that might match if your mindset is all over the place as you're being creative. That might even kind of match it, Like some's good quality, some shit quality, some's well done. I don't know. That's an interesting idea though. I don't think I've ever heard anybody come up with that before. I like that.
Sweet. Yeah. And I guess I just got to kind of make sure that it's the right book to do, because then there is that element too, right, Jason, where it's like, you kind of hope that if you're going to do this, and it doesn't matter what the book is, it really doesn't, but you kind of hope that it's a gem. You know what I mean about that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a side of you that's like, I mean, you always hope when you sit down to write a book that it's a gem. But if you're documenting this book, there's another side. There's a little bit more side of you that's like, oh man, imagine if this is a good one. Imagine if this is a great one. And then you're like, yeah, what if you get this on tape? So there is sort of that side. And maybe I should have documented incidents around the house. That's the one I just wrote. But I don't know. I think this conversation is helping because it's making me come back to where I was at the head of this, which was a little bit more, it doesn't matter what the camera is. It doesn't matter. Like, don't think about a crew and stuff when you're going to spend thousands of dollars to film yourself writing a book. So I think this conversation is reminding me of that.
You definitely to be good. It would be terrible to have about a book that then sucks. I mean, just the memes people would have about it alone would be kind of funny, though.
Yeah. No. See, I kind of look at all of writing like, I'm going to sound like a used car salesman, but it's true. It's like there's kind of this spectrum, right? The best thing you ever read and the worst thing you ever read. And every time you sit down to write, chances are you're going to fall on that spectrum somewhere. So, that's why I don't believe in imposter syndrome at all. I don't even understand it with the concept of it at all. Because chances are somewhere, or you're going to land somewhere on the spectrum of your own judgment of taste, best, worst. And if you bust that spectrum at either end, if you write the greatest book you've ever read, or if you write the worst one, either way is spectacular.
Oh, you're speaking my language, man. I watch so many bad movies.
Yeah.
It's like what I do because I appreciate when something goes so completely off the rails.
Right. So now imagine a documentary. It'd be like that movie. What was it called? American Movie. I think it was called American Movie.
Oh, the guys in
the
Wisconsin.
Two guys.
Yeah. It'd be like, now imagine a documentary of the worst book ever written.
All right. I'm sold on this. I like this idea.
That's true.
Anywhere it goes. As long as you're true and honest, I think it's good.
That's hilarious.
It'd be like that, those documentaries, that band Anvil.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
Like the metal band, right?
Yeah. American Movie is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, it really is. That's a great watch. I'm curious. I mean, you have a production company now, music, books. How do you find time to actually sit down and work on a book? Like, how do you juggle all of that?
Well, the book is like, that's the centerpiece. That's always like number one. I've even, like when I was working on Mallory, I was invited to be on set while Creep Show was being filmed in Atlanta. And maybe I should have gone, but I didn't because I was working on Mallory. Like what the book is boss. And always, everything's like that. If there's a family trip or this or that or a convention for anything, it's like, no, dude, I'm rolling. I don't want to say the artist is at work, but it is something like that. It's like, no, you know, do not disturb. We're rolling. With that in mind, so then the question becomes, how do you have time to do these other things, really? And really, what the production company is, Ryan, my manager and partner, I mean, he's like the business mind of it. And we have daily conversations every day. Him and I talk about everything that we're working on or trying to make happen. And we've been doing it for a couple years now, maybe 3 years now. And so he does a lot of like the heavier lifting. He does. When someone hands in like a script, Ryan's like a great like script doctor, teacher. He has brilliant ideas about it. I kind of don't. I'm the kind of guy that's like, oh, it's great. Let's film it, no matter what it is. Okay. And so Ryan carries a lot of that weight. And in terms of the music, you know, the band, they all have kids. Oh, that's maybe the best answer to your question is that I don't have any kids. You know, I don't know. Do you, no. Jason, do you have kids?
No.
And Chad, you do?
I've got 3, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes people will be like, oh, you're so prolific and this and that. And I'll be like, and I honestly believe the answer is I don't have any kids.
Sure. No, I mean, I can't imagine having kids with as much shit as I do now.
Watching my friends, what they do and the amount of time they put into it. And my bandmates, like my friend Mark is coming over for the first time. He literally hasn't been able to get out for like 4 weeks or something. So that's the real answer. Because we all know as writers that if you work 2-3 hours a day, whatever you get done in that span, let's say it's 1,000 words, something like that, those numbers add up fast. At the end of like a month, at the end of 2 months, you have like a rough draft of a novel. So, you know, if you do that every day, at the end of a year, you could have 6 novels. I mean, obviously it's not so specific like that, but if you don't have a day job to be at and you don't have kids to watch, there's a lot of time to do all this stuff in a day.
Okay. So Josh's productivity tips are wear a condom, delegate to your partners, and the book is number one.
The book is absolutely number one. Or if you're working on the album, the album's number one, but the writing is number one. Yep.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have some, Chad?
No, I was just thinking about how I don't have time. You know, he was talking about music, and I had begun the process of writing a soundtrack for a book that I had already put out, that coincidentally already kind of has a soundtrack because it's based around a Cure album. I mean, it has nothing to do with the Cure album, but it has everything to do with the Cure album. In the titles, lyrics are sprinkled out through as dialogue, and but I started making my own soundtrack for it, and I only recorded one song, and then I felt like, man, I don't have time to do this. I got to get back to writing, and I keep thinking about that. I keep thinking about these other songs that I want to get recorded, and it's not that, you know, 2 of my 3 kids don't even live here. My youngest is almost 18, so it's not that. But I don't know. Man,
Chad, I even had meetings. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'm just going to say it. I've had meetings with Waxwork about I want to write the soundtrack for Spin a Black Yarn, the book. So that book's supposed to come out next year. And I talked to them at length about what it would be. It's 5 novellas. There could be 5 like totally distinct pieces of music. I talked to my bandmates. And then Waxworks is interested. I mean, I'd have to deliver something awesome, right?
Yeah.
But same thing, man. It has been really hard to like find. You think like, oh, this is gonna be amazing. I'll just add music to this, and you're like, whoo, yeah. It's like this is an endeavor. This is like a months-long endeavor that we would be undertaking.
And it feels like a different part of my brain too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
sure. Playing my guitar and you know, and I mean the lyric writing puts me back into, you know, kind of the writing mode. But as far as like, you know, vocal melodies or guitar, it's like a different I got to get my mind out of this other thing and put it into this other thing.
No, I know. I always equate it to like sort of like a boy in a bubble, and I have to like step out of this bubble.
Yes.
And that's an effort. And then step into this bubble, and that's an effort.
Yeah.
And like you like
but you can't just dip your toe in it and then pop back out into the other one and have them both be, really good. It's like
I even sort of argue that reading I almost have that trouble with writing and reading at the same. Like when I'm in on a book, especially when I'm rewriting, when I'm in on a book, it's like I can't imagine like afterwards reading a novel. Like I can read like and then when I'm done with that book, I'll read like a novel in a day or two. You know what I mean? But I like it's almost like I don't want to be around like another mood or something. Like it's like protecting. Like okay, we're in this. When I was writing Bird Box, we're on the river. We are in this space. I don't even really want to watch a movie. Like, and it's not like avoiding influence or something. It's just trying to remain in this space for the duration of that rough draft or the duration of that rewrite.
Right.
And I think that to the non-creative, the idea would be like, hey man, you write novels. Why can't you just finish writing and then go pick up your guitar? Right? And it's like, I don't know how to say it. You're right. It should freaking be that easy, but it's not.
Yeah.
And Allison too has even like expressed sort of like, let's play music, after I'm done. I'm like, whew, man, wow. I've been like coming up with like scenes all day, and then I'm just gonna like riff on the piano or something. I'm like, oh man, I just kind of want to lay on the couch.
Yeah. You've fried your brain.
Yeah.
So when you finish a book, do you take a couple of weeks off before starting another one so you can do other things you enjoy?
Yeah. Maybe even more than that. I probably write. I do write like on an average of like 2 books a year. It's been that way for 18 years now. So there are 36 in this office, and the rough drafts typically take a month. The rewrites are fairly extensive because the rough drafts are just like outrageous bar fests that are like so fun and colorful. It should be criminal. And so, but think about what I just said. Like, if it's only, so now we're saying only 2 like concentrated months on the rough drafts. How many months concentrated on? There's a million other things, short stories and interviews and stuff too. But there are gaps between. I think anyone that says like I write every day, I'm like, no, maybe. No, none of us do that. We try to, and we think about it every day, no doubt about that. And we write a lot. But I'm coming up with 2 books a year in a real way. Meaning like, rewrites and everything. And I got enough days off to write 2 more a year. So yeah, there is that balance. But Chad, I don't know about you, but after finishing a rough draft, one time I did immediately turn around and rewrite that book. Have you ever done that?
I mean, only to the point where like switching tenses or, I don't think I've done a whole book. I've done half a book where I changed the concept completely, and I changed the tense too, and the POV. Yeah,
because it's almost like I need or I would like not a life coach, but someone to be like don't do that. Finish the rough draft and then I'm about to rewrite. No. You got to wait. Go up north for like a month. You need to get away from this for a minute, and that's true. We come back and we're like, oh God, this rough draft is so embarrassing.
Have you ever done that, Jason? Completely rewritten something?
Like right back to back.
Like not a rewrite where I was changing tenses and things like that. No, but I always do my second draft right after it. But
you do?
Yeah, like the next day I finish it and then I
do that. But I do the I guess I will call it the Lansdale method, even though I had been doing that when I realized, hey, Lansdale does this too. But so when I'm done, it's a pretty darn clean draft. Of course, I go through it a couple more times.
I edit as I go, so my second draft takes me 2 weeks.
Wow.
It's not a lot. And it's usually like my stupid brain, I'm noticing all the words I had missing, or I'm like, this scene sucks, I'm going to take this out, or I need to punch it up or whatever.
Why don't you say hi to the world,
Get the doggy.
I say, no, look over here for a second.
What kind of dog is that?
This is a Weimaraner.
Just cute.
Lean forward so they can see you this way. There you go.
I don't like doing that though, because I think that it hinders being even more prolific because I'm a perfectionist. So it takes some of the joy. So I don't just let it get out. It's like, oh, I have to fix this before I move on. I've got to fix this before I move on. Where I feel like, and it feels like maybe it takes longer to finish a book that way. And if it's like, man, if I could just get my head in a spot where I just let it all out and then I worried about it later, having that first finished, like this is the book right here that I'm looking at. And it didn't take as long as,
right.
Now all I have to go through, I've got to go through and do this thing, but that's a big motivator for me.
Yep. No, exactly. I that's been my thing since day one is, would you rather have 300 pages that you can fix or no pages at all? So that's the whole concept of like, who cares if this rough draft is good or bad, is that it's such a motivator to have the book here. I wrote this one, just finished it recently, like a month ago or whatever. And I printed it out. It's on the desk and it's exactly what you're saying. Like what a motivator to like go back into this and like give it my all and talk about it with my agent and talk about it with Del Rey and Penguin. But like, here it is. It's real.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm just pitching some idea. Also recently, and this is freaking awesome, Ryan and I had a meeting with a director, a fella that has like 6 movies, 6 features made, and he's a young guy. And it was really exciting to meet him because I felt like I was meeting a sort of a kindred spirit in this prolific way, and for the same reasons or something. And in this meeting, he starts saying what he's a fan of mine, I'm a fan of his. We're trying to figure out something maybe to do together one day. And he starts describing what he's into. And I'm like, man, I think this dude would like this book of mine that's like a rough draft I wrote in 2011. And it's been in this, office, whatever, in this crate since then, Just haven't put it out yet. There's a lot of them here. And it's one of my favorite ones of mine. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pitch him on that. I'm just going to tell him this, right now in this meeting. And I did. I told him all about the book. He's like, oh, that sounds great. Can I read it? And I'm like, shit, all I have is this rough draft that I wrote like 12 years ago, or whatever it is. And I'm like thinking like, oh, yeah, I wanted you to say that. And now I don't know what to do that you said that. So I was like, screw it. I sent him the rough draft the next day. And I was really nervous about it. He read it within like a week or whatever. He already has the script, storyboards, and he's trying to find financing to make this movie right now.
Excellent.
So my question is then, or not my question, my point of bringing this up is it underscores exactly what you and I are saying right now, that to have that book on me, it was not just a motivator to, as you say, like rewrite it or write another book, but it's also something to talk about, to show someone, to talk about, maybe you make a novella of it and put it out somewhere. Maybe you shoot your own film of it, but for it to be done even in a wonky form, or it's not its best form, I love your word, is a motivator.
No, that's very interesting. I like the idea of just getting words down, to be honest.
Yeah,
sure. I think that's really important. And I would love to. I probably have 3 half-written books, and if I didn't write the way that I write, I'd have 3 written books. They wouldn't be good, as good as they would going to be, but they would be done, and I wouldn't be. I'd be a little bit more eager to get back to them instead of having them be kind of like these stressful little things on the back burner.
Of my
shoulders.
So how many books have you written?
17.
Wow. Okay, so 17 and 3 unfinished. I already told you whatever. I've written a few dozen, but I had 2 unfinished.
Mm-hmm.
And well, actually, you kind of argue there's one more, but there's 2 unfinished, and I did it. I went back and finished them, and we're talking like 10 years later, kind of thing. And how old are the 2 of yours? Recent or
you mean the ones that aren't finished yet?
Yeah.
Within the last couple of years, they're not that old.
Okay, so they're not like haunting you. You're not like they're not haunting you yet.
You're right? Yeah.
Finished them.
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah, but I had that whole like I had I'd be like at a party drinking, all of a sudden I'd be like marbles. Marbles. I'd be having like the time of my life. I'd be like on a roller coaster with Allison, and I'd think marbles. You have to finish marbles. I'd be like going to see like my nephews being born. I'm like, Ryan, is it a boy or a girl? Marbles.
I actually do have one like that I keep forgetting. So we'll add one to the uncompleted ones, and I haven't done it because it's because of the nature of it, and some of the stuff in it was too difficult for me to write, I guess, at the time. Sometimes I read stuff out loud to my wife. She likes that rather than me. So when I'm done with the book, I'll oftentimes read it out loud.
That's cool.
And I couldn't do that with this. I just couldn't because I was like starting to choke up. And so after that, and this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And so I keep forgetting about it. But I guess that one kind of haunts me because it's like, you got to write that eventually, and you have to deal with this thing.
I don't mean to be so tangential or whatever the exact phrase is, but can I ask you, so what you're describing, is it choke up because it was like reflected like a personal experience in your life, or was it just heavy ass shit and then it was like
no personal experience? Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess I should have known. If someone's choking up, it's not because they wrote something too brutal. It's because they're writing something reflective.
No. No, I can get through that. It's not fun always, but I can get through that.
Yeah. So the point though, for viewers, is that to go back and finish those, one of them, I'm just making sure I'm right. No, I think I started them both over. So because it had been like literally like 10 years, I'm going to do like go back and like rewrite this front half. No, I read the front half or like the order of scenes and then just like rewrote it. But this time made it through that halfway point and freaking finished. Both those books had reached the 40,000 word mark. 40,000 words, and you're not gonna go, man. Just like give me like 10 shitty thousand words and then just put the end, for crying out loud. But yeah, I wrapped up those. I did, and it's a good feeling. They don't haunt me anymore.
Is that typically when you get stuck around the 40,000 word mark?
I don't typically get stuck, but I think that if I'm going to, or if there's ever that out to sea feeling, it's around there. There's the fuel of the beginning and whatever character, maybe like let's say take Mallory, for example. I was so excited to write her, from the start. And so there's the fuel of meeting Mallory and the scenario she's in and the kids with her in this boat, all this stuff. And then at some point, like 40,000 words deep, you're like, I kind of know how this ends. Like, where the fuck am I,
Like 30,000 words. Every book I write, 30,000 words. I hit a sticking point.
Yeah, the son. My mom is trying to write a book right now, which is super exciting to me.
That's cool.
I told her, I'm talking to her like you and I are talking out, Jason, where I'm like, okay, you're going to come to this, you're going to come to this fork in the road. All right, just believe me. When you get like 40,000 words deep, you're going to wonder, like, you're going to feel like you can't see where you left anymore, and you are out to sea, and in there. You have to be strong, Mom.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, it's within like 2,000 or 3,000 words of 30K. Every goddamn book.
That's interesting. It's almost like you're like, what am I writing? Is this any good? Like, is this a lemon? Is this like, where am I going? Are these scenes like, oh man, I had a grasp on it a minute ago. I don't now. And then all like, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm just going to write through this. I'm going to get through this. And then you do, and you're like,
whew. Yeah. Once I get to like 40, I'm good. But man, there's like a couple days in there where I'm just like, I suck. What am I doing?
Yeah. It is about that middle point for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really strange.
We're talking all these numbers, and I just realized that earlier when I said that I made 4 figures a year writing, it's 5. And I just realized that I said 4. So you guys are probably like, you should probably stop, Chad.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would never say that anyway. None of us would.
So you're good with numbers is what you're saying? I guess. I got a question for you, Josh. I noticed that you seem to be really, like, I've never seen you like hate on anything. And even I don't know, mainly, I guess, books. At least you don't, maybe you do behind, closed doors or whatever, but where does that come from? Like, how do you, like, do you really do just appreciate every book that you read? Or do you read some and you're like, this is garbage?
No, it's never quite like that. I think and I probably have said this to you before. I am able to, in any book I'm reading, I'm able to locate the reason the book was written. I can smell it, I can feel it, I can point at it and say, this is it. This is why this book was written. This was the nugget. This was the jet fuel that got the writer in the chair to write this book. It's this, Allison. It's this thread or this character or this scene. You can just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a song or something, right? Like you like, that's the song, you can like feel it or something. The only time I ever do sort of feel like, I wouldn't say garbage, like it's garbage or something, is if there's a sense, and the same thing with music, of someone like, see, I don't want to say like trying to write a bestseller, because even that's like its own bizarre skill. And if I read someone that's like a bestseller, or trying to write like that, and they do it well, it's kind of like, oh shit. Like if someone writes a great pop song, right? You're like, you might be like, no, that's lame, but also like, that's a good song, right?
It's got a hook, yeah.
Yeah, something, right? But I do think that, like, in a general sense, though, where we're coming from is a more artistic place, or is a more soulful place, is a more like foot stomping, awesome guitar sound place, rather than a corporate like single. And so those moments, sometimes when I read something like that, I could be like, I'm not talking about James Patterson. I'm talking about like in our scene and shit. I'm talking about, sometimes you can kind of feel someone swinging for a bestseller. And in those moments, I'll kind of have like, they're trying to write a hit versus because there's a modern sort of like sense of humor to that. And there's a modern pacing to that. And there's a modern, like, you can just feel it or smell it.
It's not real.
Yeah.
It's not authentic.
I almost feel bad saying this even, because, all right, well, I don't know. They're trying to pull that off though. And there's something about that too. I don't know. But so I wouldn't say I'm like, this is garbage, but I am like, I'll be like, I will say to Allison, oh, they're swinging on, like, this person's swinging on this one.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Okay.
So you're able to pull something from anything you read, even if maybe it's a book you don't like, you can pull motivation from it, or you like this scene or why they wrote it or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the worst horror novel we read is better than most horror movies we see. And I think that because a lot of the time, it's that we want to be like, what's the right word? To sink into that world, that atmosphere, the mood of a horror story, right? We want to be within a horror story. We want to be inside it. Look, I'm sitting like in front of a casket while I say this. We want to be inside of a horror story, children, And so I do think like a book is just naturally more immersive. And so even a horror novel that we're like, whatever, it's still like, or it could be like the straightest story ever, and we're still like, yeah, but it's a scary story. In a movie, that can fall really flat for us. It's like a really trite or it can be too glossy or not enough atmosphere, that kind of thing. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in a movie, I feel like. And with the book, I'm like, this is somebody just telling me a scary story. And where would I rather be than that?
So why start a production company if you prefer books to movies? Well,
I mean, that's because that's the goal, is to make the good horror movies, is to I for a long time I was collecting horror VHS, and there was a long time in my life where I was living in friends' hallway. I lived in a friend's hallway for a while, not even the basement, the hallway. I rent anyway.
That's a good friend.
But yes, no doubt. Wow. That's insane. Anyway, but I carried around with me these 3 boxes of horror VHS and like not much else. But I did have a little combination TV VCR thing too. And I used to, kind of like say to, his name was Joe, is Joe. I would say to like Joe and stuff, like in the genre, there's a lot of sifting through like, oh boy, oh man, oh yeah. And then, but when you find a gem or you find something that speaks to you, whether that's high art, low art, however you want to look at it, it's like, yes, like I found another one. I found it. Whether everyone knows about it or not, or you found it yourself, or it doesn't matter. You got another one. So the production company, like, I mean, that's the fantasy, right? That's the dream, is to make one of those. Like that movie Scare Me. Did you guys see that one? Josh Rubin directed.
I did, in the cabin.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Oh, the one that's like a play?
Yeah.
I absolutely
loved
loved that movie. Yeah, right. And like that kind of thing to me was like, I don't want to say a diamond in the rough because it's not even what I mean to say. Just it was like a gem. It's what I'm always looking for or something.
Unique. It's very unique.
Yeah, it's something different for sure.
Yeah, and so if Ryan and I could pull that off, I mean, look, the real freaking fantasy on one level is like, I want to direct a movie. I want to direct one of these books. But I also like, we were just talking about making a soundtrack for your book that like the time. Woo. And I read an interview with Clive Barker where he was saying he stopped directing movies because every time he directed them, it was 2 years of his life, and I want to do it. And I'll bet you guys want to do that as well. And I'm going to do it, damn it. But, if Ryan and I could pull this, if we can make something great or be a part of something great happening, then I want to be one of the guys that deliver one of those gems.
So how exactly does it work? Say you get a script in from somebody and you like it, option it, whatever. Do you go about trying to get funding for it?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So typically Ryan, well, I wouldn't say typically because each scenario is very, very different. But Ryan will give a lot of notes on the script side. We'll have meetings about that. I will read typically like the first draft and then one that's after like a few later that Ryan and the writer had like worked on together. I'll read like a fourth draft or something, but Ryan's in like the trenches with that stuff typically. And at some point he'll say, okay, I think we can bring this out. Let's bring this, look for funding here or here. But man, that side of things is, that is a whole different world. And it's almost like, because you realize that literally the only thing holding a production company, or let's say me and Ryan, that would hold us up from just greenlighting every project we're working on is money. Literally, that's it. So if Ryan and I had that money ourselves, like I'm talking millions of dollars to be able to just make a bunch of movies, then we would. So it's like, okay, at some point you start saying to yourself, all this work we're doing, rewriting the script, trying to find funding, kind of have a lead here, kind of don't there, that there's a lot of that. Okay. And then you're like, maybe what we should be doing is getting like that singular investor to invest. Like, I'm just making this number up now. If we have a few movies we think that could be made for $250,000, let's get someone to invest $1 million and make 3 movies on our own now. We need to get someone to give us $1 million and we make these 3 movies. Let's greenlight these 3. To me, that's so much more progressive. That's so much more momentum rather than, in a linear fashion. You have this project and now we have to find the funding and maybe this is a lead, maybe it's not. And now people are losing enthusiasm. Sure. It's too long. Ryan, we just need a pile of money to hand to each of these 3 movies. And, and obviously we would be working with people that we trust and whatever, meaning directors and other producers who, would be doing like the daily grind on these movies or whatever. And to like sort of oversee this, that to me is like the ideal scenario. Now that I just got to find that guy to give me $1 million.
Right. Just got to find a rich friend.
But I mean, I was just sort of making that number up. I mean, it does actually kind of make sense too. Yeah. I'm sure the 3 of us can make 3 movies for $1 million.
I know you've got a hard out. Chad, do you have anything else you want to ask?
I have a lot. And that's why months down the road, I'm going to bug Josh again and ask him to come back.
Well, no, we could, we can keep going. You want to go for a little bit longer?
No, that's fine. We can. I know Jason's got a bail too, I think.
Okay, you do. Okay, I didn't want to look like I was ending the party.
No, it's fine. We usually only do 45 minutes anyway, but okay. I don't know. The whole production company thing is very fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. It's something I would like to do at some point in the future, and I don't know. The whole industry behind movie making is just horrific to me. I hate the way it's all done. It drives me crazy.
Dude, me too. So wait, but I didn't mean to interrupt you. So do you find yourself in these scenarios also like meetings about making movies and half the stuff that people are saying, you're like, why are we worried about this?
Every person I've ever talked to who just wanted to option one of my stories, I'm like, you are slinging so much bullshit at me right now. Like, just speak plainly to me. Like, why are we, I don't know. I just hate everything about it. I hate even raising money.
No, I know. I hate that it even costs money at all. And then there's another side of me that says, why don't we look for movies that don't? And now that sounds insane. What am I talking about? But I'm like, I don't know, Ryan. I'm talking to Ryan now. Ryan, I don't know. Like, we can like make a movie on like our cell phone these days. Like maybe we need to be thinking, and it doesn't have to be found footage, man. Like maybe we need to be thinking more creatively in that way too. The thing in meetings, Jason, that like messes me up, and I pretty much punch out every time we have one of these moments in a meeting, is when people start talking about casting. And I'm talking about like other producers and studios and stuff. And there's oftentimes a sense there of like, the way that it's talked about is like, it's like people as like meat or something, like this person's ranked this high and this person's ranked. I'm like, ranked? Like all of our favorite movies, nobody was ranked. Like I didn't know who the young woman, the star of The Witch was when we saw The Witch. We saw The Witch because it was a brilliant, scary movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I hate all of that stuff.
Florence Pugh, or however you say her name. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I didn't know her in Midsommar. We watched it because it was great. So I, in those moments, but I understand that they're all saying, if we want funding, we need this. One time, Ryan and I had a meeting. Oh my God. We had this unbelievable meeting. I won't say what studio. The meeting's going so well, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, the executive from the studio said, hey, if you guys can get Millie Bobby Brown to star in this, then we'll greenlight it. We were like, what? Wait a minute. So we just had this like super long meeting about, dude, if we got Millie Bobby Brown to be in a movie about like this coffee mug, you would greenlight it. Like, what do we like? We want her to. This is her best friend. This coffee mug. They'd be like, let's roll. Like, why did we even have this meeting for it to end on? If you can get the biggest movie star in the world in this age group, if you can get Brad Pitt, then let's work together. Why didn't you maybe just say that at the beginning?
That's what sucks about movies.
Just say that at the beginning.
It's a business and not an art, and that's why our theaters are filled with rehashed garbage or nothing but comic book films, and that's a whole different thing.
But it's not like a startup business. It's like an entrenched corporation with just so much bloat and annoying bullshit. Like, just sometimes I haven't been on too many movie sets, just a couple, and just watching the way, this is your job. You cannot help over here. Like, if we need help, you can't do that. That's like their union rules sometimes. I'm just like, what is this? Like, I don't know. It just goes against the way I like to work. I just want to do what needs done.
I know what you mean. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe Ryan and I, how like people would be like, and then God, this is all making me want to call Ryan right now about this. Like, how people would be like, oh, they just made a movie with their friends, or I just made a movie with my friends. And it's like, there's a side of me that wants maybe Ryan and I to start seeing what we're trying to do more that way. Like, because I agree with you. And it even feels weird on the set. There's like this hierarchy that feels really weird. Like, I'm like it. What do you like? What do you mean? Oh, he's the writer, the director. Who cares? We're all just human beings. Like, I know how to use the camera, you don't, or I wrote it, and who cares if I wrote it, and who cares if you're starring it? Let's just like excitedly tell a story together. I don't think that it has to be so compartmentalized and so stiff and so quasi fame.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. But I will also say, and this is very me to say this, that I have met some freaking awesome people out there, like amazing people, like that director I was just talking about with that rough draft I sent. Felt like I met like a kindred spirit in this dude. So I met like a lot of people who would probably agree with what you and I are saying right now too. If he was here right now, I'd be like, oh, let me tell you, sorry, guys, I made 6 features. You have no idea how insane it is out there. But I could talk about this all day, but I do find myself punching out in moments that feel like what you're describing, like those casting moments, or anytime you feel like you're swimming with sharks. I kind of find myself like, I'm not interested in like harpooning the sharks in the producer pool of Hollywood. I'm interested in just like telling an awesome horror story. However we make that happen, let's just do that.
Well, I hope you all the success with this, because I feel like that's what we need. I just want cool stories. Like, there's so many good independent horror stories on Amazon. You could just go buy one for $4 and you're like, holy shit, this would be a great movie.
Oh my God.
And it'll never get made.
Go pick up any anthology. Chad, you know this better than anyone in the world. Go pick up any anthology and you feel like you literally can make these 20 movies.
Yeah.
And when you see that, you literally feel like you can make all 20 of them.
It pisses me off.
You're like, what's going on here? How many of these are out there? And why is it so hard? It's the money.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Well, thank God we have A24 and IFC, because
it's true. Before we let you go, we ask everyone 2 questions, just very quickly. If you could, one thing that you felt like it was the most successful thing you've done, whether it's, I don't know, writing advice or marketing advice or anything. What one thing could you pick that you would say, this helped me the most?
Just like an absolute bullheaded, like sort of delusional sense that like I was saying before, I don't believe in imposter syndrome. I just don't. I don't. When I see, I kind of want to write a book about imposter syndrome, and pretty much the whole point of it is that there's nothing to be an imposter of. Like there is no standard to be an imposter of, and so I think that knowing that and grasping that from the very start is without question the thing that is helping the most. Why? Because when I sat down to write my first novel, I wasn't comparing it to anyone else. I wasn't saying this is good or this isn't good enough or this is this or this. I wasn't saying this isn't sellable. I wasn't thinking that way. I was just thinking I am writing a novel and that's enough in and of itself. And like Chad said before, that's in and of itself the great motivator to write the next one. And when you're writing the next one, now you're starting to talk to people. What do you do? Oh, I write novels. You do? And you're like, oh, I just said I write novels. Yeah, I write novels. And now you're working on number 3. How many have you written? Well, I've written 3. You've written 3 books. And by the time you're like talking about it online, a friend from high school writes you and says, hey, I see you're, posting every month about a new book you wrote. I have a lawyer friend that helps represent, or I have, this and that. Can you send me one? And you already have Bird Box done. And you already have Goblin done. And and why? Because back to the start, when you first sat down to write number 1, there was nothing, there was never any sense of anything to be an imposter of. So I would say that it's that. It's just this bullheaded sort of like, not only do I belong, everyone belongs, let's roll.
I always ask also, what piece of advice would you say people should stay away from? But it sounds like that's kind of the same answer. Don't believe in imposter syndrome.
Well, one thing I'm trying to think, is there stuff on Twitter I'll see every now and then where I'm like, oh man, people worry about that. What is it? Well, yeah, no, it's imposter syndrome is one, but there's another one, not trends, because everyone seems to know not to. The tastes and everything. Not only do they move so fast, but it seems like all tastes are happening all at once now. Like you can put out quiet horror or loud horror right now, slasher or like a family drama, and it's all in right now. You know what I mean? There isn't. So what trend? When people say don't follow trends, it's kind of like yes, but also everything is a trend right now. Okay. But there is other stuff I'll see online like that I just think is a little too stiff for me, It'll be like, I see people that talk about like you like a real writer like hates writing but loves having written. There's that phrase. And I'm like, oh man, no. And I saw S.A. Cosby, I saw him responding to that like I love writing. I love it. It's a joy for me. And I'm like, yes, me too. And that doesn't like, I think it's important to remember that a joy doesn't mean it's not hard. I mean, my God. I mean, like stupid example, I'm going to go run, like I was saying, right? And then after we're done, that's going to suck. And then when it's done, it's going to be like, yes. And the feeling of like you did it is enormous, that accomplishment. So I think that it's a sort of indirect way of answering just the second part of your question is like this sense of like, it's okay to feel good about this. It's okay to like, you don't have to be this like self-loathing, like I hate writing or it's so, this kind of thing. Like, man, if you hate writing, then I don't know, don't write.
Solid advice. Don't be a douchebag writer.
I also understand what people mean when they say that, but to me, it's like, come on, man, come on.
Well,
yes, it's hard,
Josh,
but let's go. Let's go.
I know you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a privilege.
Appreciate it, Josh. It's great seeing you again.
Yes,
big time.
You guys too.